All right, here we go. How to build a rocket. So, things you are going to need. Masking tape, scotch tape. You're going to need 2 separate index cards, 1 large sheet of construction paper, and then a PVC pipe. That's the size of the launcher, which will get that to you. You're also going to need clay. I don't have any clay, so I'm just going to use a napkin to demonstrate what you need. And you'll need a pair of scissors. So to get started, first thing you're going to do is build what we call the rocket body, which is the tube at the bottom of the rocket. So you're going to take your construction paper, and you can do this one of 2 ways. If you want a shorter rocket, we're going to roll it around the PVC pipe this way. If you want a longer rocket, you're going to roll it around this way. And all we do is take it and just kind of like we're rolling up a piece of paper, we're going to roll it around the tube. Think of like folding a kind of like a poster. And what we want is we want this to be a little snug, but we don't want it too tight. It should easily go across here, but not be too wide. You don't want something that, if I was to look at this, you don't want a lot of space in there. So when we roll it up, we just want to be kind of close to the tube. And if I was to show you the difference on this one, you'll notice there's just very little space there, but it still moves nice and smooth. Okay, from here, you're going to take 3 pieces of our scotch tape. It is a little handy if you have these ready, but all we're going to do is tape in the middle there, so that's going to hold it. And then we're going to take 2 more. I'm going to tape 1 at the bottom, or the top, whatever it ends up being. And then 1 also on the other end. Okay, and you got that there. Now, to make this a little more secure, you can take your masking tape at this point. And what I like to do is take 1 long strip about the length of the rocket body and just tape, so we have this little seam right here, and just tape that seam down all the way down. And once you do that, you are all set, and that is our rocket body. Now the next thing you're going to want to build is the cone. So the cone is going to be what goes on top of the rocket. What I like to do here is I take this and I pinch it here, and then I take my fingers and I kind of go backwards. If I take and spin this around, you're going to get a cone shape. Now you can make this kind of whatever shape you want. It can come in a lot of different ways here. But essentially we need the tip, and then we need an open bottom there. Once you get this, we're also going to take some scotch tape. Now the scotch tape is always kind of used as our first little tape because it's nice and easy there. So I've got that, and if you'll see here, there is this like seam right here. So what I like to kind of do is take just a few more pieces of tape and tape them up. And from here, our cone is ready. Okay, think of it like an ice cream cone. Okay, now you'll notice if I put this on my rocket body, there's all kinds of different ways it can move and wiggle. So we want to trim our cone. Now what I like to do is I like to start small here. I just kind of cut around, and what we want to do is try to make this as straight as we can, and we want to put this on. Now you can see here, this one might be a little big, so what I like to do is make this as close to this, but I do want it to hang over a little bit. So this might take a little bit of kind of playing around here. Sometimes you can just kind of cut straight across, and you'll see there's no real right way to do this. But what I want to do is get that as close to that size as possible. Okay, now once I've got that, now I'm gonna, now once I have my cone all set up, the next thing I want to do is put my clay in the tip of this cone. Now what that's going to do is add some weight. so that when the rocket flies, it flies straight and doesn't wave around when the air is hitting it and things of that nature. So for this, I'm just using a napkin as a demonstration, but this is where you're going to use the clay. What you want to do is get a ball of clay, maybe about the size of like a quarter or so. And all we're going to do is take that and shove it into the tip of the cone. And we want to push that in just enough so it kind of fills up that gap. You can even make it like a little tip so it slides in there easier, but we want to get that clay up in there. Now from here, we're going to attach the cone. So what we're going to do is take our cone, after it's been sized and filled with clay, we're going to put it on the tip here. We're going to take 3 pieces of tape. We're going to go from, and this part's really important, we're going to go from the top of it down to the bottom. So we're going this way. We'll come back around and kind of add to this to make it more secure. So there's my first one. I'm going to go 1 on each of the 4 sides. Second, each time I just kind of turn it, little quarter turn. My third, and finally my 4th. Okay. And now from here, we are ready for our fins. So the fins are going to be we're going to make a little right triangle. So a right triangle meaning we have a straight side, and then, or we have a straight side, and then we also have a curved side. So easiest way to do is take our paper here. I'm just going to let this be my 90-degree angle. I'm going to cut here, and then I'm going to cut straight here. I've got 2 of them here. For this, I really only need 3. There are some other, you can experiment with fin design how you want to. You can try adding 2, you can try adding 4. I've just find 3 to be the easiest for me. Okay, now once I've got that, this is where taping gets a little tricky, but what you want to do is get another piece of Scotch tape here, and we are going to take our smaller pointy end and point it toward the tip of our rocket, and all I'm going to do is lay it flat, and I'm going to tape just one side of it. Okay, now when I tape one side of it, it allows this to flap back and forth. And what I'm going to do is take another piece of tape, and I'm going to flap it over, and I'm going to tape down the other side. And if I do this correctly, I can get my fin to stand pretty straight up. And we're going to come around and put some masking tape on that to reinforce it as well. So we need to do this 3 times. So there's my first one. I'm just going to try to get these as even as possible. So if my first one is here, I kind of want my next 2 to kind of be like a third of a turn in. So I'm going to go about right here. And again, some of this is where we just have to experiment. Okay, so part of this is just learning to try things and see what works best. Okay, so I got 2 there, and then I'm going to put 1 on the third side here. Oops. And you will see this whole rocket kind of take shapes once we start using our masking tape. So now you can kind of see here, and I can adjust these, move these around a little bit. So now I've got these that are ready to go, and that's going to keep my arrow straight. So, or my rocket straight. So I have a basic rocket here that is ready to launch. Okay, now obviously we're going to be putting a lot of air pressure on these, so we need to reinforce it. So this is where our masking tape comes in. So let's look at our cone first. First thing I like to do is take 2 more pieces of masking tape. I don't know, about 3 inches long, and I like to start it near the top of my cone and come down onto my rocket body. And I'm going to do 3 of these. 1, 2, and again we're going from the top to the bottom. This does make a difference. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is secure these pieces of tape. So I'm going to take another one about 4 inches long. And what I'm going to do is right here below where the cone and the rocket body come together, I'm going to tape a round just over those pieces of masking tape, and I'm going to do that once, twice. I'm going to try to do it 3 times here. What this is doing is really holding this tape down that's holding our cone on. Okay, once I've got that, now I've got to reinforce the ones up here. I'm going to take a little bit here, and this one gets a little tricky. We're going to start up high. You'll notice it kind of wraps around diagonal, so I'm just going to kind of follow that pattern there. You'll notice it might even come down here. That's okay. And if I started one this way, I can also start it the other way. Anything we can do to reinforce this, the better. Okay, and if I want to, I can take one more last piece of tape. And a lot of those little spiral ones came down here, so I'm going to do one more tape just across. Okay, we have to remember this is going to be on a rocket launcher, and all the air pressure is going to be on the cone. So we want to make sure that this part is attached well. Okay, so we're good there. Now we can add some masking tape to our fins in a very similar fashion. It does work best if this is measured as close to your fin size as possible. And what we're going to do is just put one, and this part will make it easier here. So I'm taping here. I want the end of the tape, let me see here if I can show it better this way. I want the end of the tape to be as close to the tip here as possible. And what I'm going to do is just go straight down the line. So it's right here. Now you might have some extra here. Do not push it up into the tube because that's going to make your rocket launch funny. So what I would do is if you have some extra, just with your scissors, just go through there and kind of cut it off, make it flat, and we're going to tape that down. And what we want to do is this little tape pattern on each of these wings. Now if you're pressed for time or want to make things a little quicker, you can always start with masking tape on these fins. You do not have to start with the Scotch tape. A lot of times I find it easier if I just start with the masking tape. The nice thing with the masking tape is it will keep your fins up stronger. You'll notice with the Scotch tape it is floppier. With the masking tape it's much stiffer, which is what we want when these rockets are flying through the air. So we're going to repeat that process on the fins. And again, it's easier if you just kind of fold it down, push it through. Again, make sure we've got, and if you do have some extra here, we can always just kind of cut that. We can fold it. There's different ways to kind of work with that extra tape. I'll leave that up to you. So let's finish taping those. And as we work through this, this will be the last step of our rocket. Now once you have these all built, they will be ready to launch. And there you go. You'll notice now that these are more straight out and ready to go. You'll notice mine aren't perfectly spaced apart. I have found the more I do this that doesn't necessarily matter. But if you want to be more precise with that, you're more than welcome to. Okay, so now we have a rocket that's ready to launch. The launcher will look something like this. It will be a PVC pipe. You will then take your rocket when you're ready to launch on that launch day. You will take, and you want to make sure it slides onto that tube. It should be pretty easy to fly off, but again, it should not be too loose. Okay, a loose rocket's not going to fly as high, but if it's too tight, the air pressure will make your rocket explode. We don't want that. So from here, your rocket is ready to go, and you are ready to either decorate, have some fun. A few things on decorating. If you are going to add more tape or colorful tape, it's always best to add it to the tip. The heavier this is and the lighter this is, the straighter it's going to fly. And if it flies straight, it will fly further and higher. So that's what we want. Other than that, there's a lot of different creative things you can do with this. If you're looking at experimenting or looking things up, you can look up different fin designs. That's where I find that things kind of get a little, you can get a little more experimental with them. I would also experiment with either a longer rocket or, like we talked about earlier when making our rocket body, the shorter one. Okay, those are some of your options there. All right, have fun. Remember, this is science. Things are supposed to work, and sometimes they don't. And when things don't work, that means we have to work on our design a little better, and that's where the science comes in. All right, have fun.